investigation is the death of the 28-year-old man. Halton Police is conducting a parallel criminal investigation into the fatality of the other individual and also the injuries that were inflicted upon the female.
The province's Special Investigations Unit is looking into the death of two men inside a Burlington home early this morning. A woman also suffered minor injuries in the incident. Good evening. Neighbors have identified the two men killed as Mauro Giannacaro and his 28-year-old son, Luciano.
They say they could hear yelling and screaming coming from the family's home prior to the deadly incident. CTV's John Musselman reports.
Police were called to this home around 12:30 this morning for unknown trouble. A 911 call came in, but the dispatch operator only heard voices in the background inside the home. There was no caller on the other end of the line. When officers arrived, a 28-year-old man fled up the stairs to the second floor.
There was a struggle between the male upstairs with police, and there would have been a brief interaction and conducted an energy weapon. And then there was also the self-inflicted wound suffered by this individual.
Investigators say a second man in his 50s was found dead inside the home. A woman, also in her 50s, suffered minor injuries. Police are not releasing the names of the two dead men, but neighbors identify them as Mauro Giannacaro, the father, and his 28-year-old son, Luciano. This Facebook photo shows the father and son together in 2010. Neighbors tell CTV News there was often loud fights at the home involving the grown son, who could be heard screaming and shouting at his parents. This man lives next door. He did not want to be identified on camera.
Been hearing it constantly on a regular basis for years.
Meanwhile, residents living in this Burlington neighborhood near Appleby Line and Dundas call the incident sad and disturbing.
It's tragic. It's so sad. It's incredibly unexpected. It's a really nice, family-oriented community.
Like I said, it's a nice neighborhood. I mean, it's very sad whatever's happened.
Halton police are conducting a parallel criminal investigation into the death of the father. The family has lived in this home for more than 14 years. The home remains sealed off as part of this investigation. Anyone with information is asked to call Halton Regional Police. John Musselman, CTV News in Burlington.
Durham Regional Police have identified the victim of a deadly stabbing in Pickering as 83-year-old Eleanor Doney. Police say Doney was gardening outside her home on Lynn Heights Drive on May 29th when she was approached by a male suspect and stabbed multiple times. She was rushed to a trauma center where she died. A 14-year-old boy from Pickering has been charged with first-degree murder in her death. He cannot be identified under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. Doney's family released a statement which reads, "We want to express our gratitude to the community for the outpouring of love and support during this difficult time. We especially want to thank the first responders for all their efforts. We take comfort in the fact that she was a woman of strong Christian faith." Premier Doug Ford met with the U.S. ambassador to Canada today and discussed the strained relationship between the two countries.
The meeting comes as Ontario braces for the fallout from U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to increase tariffs on steel and aluminum. CTV's Sean Leathong's been following this story and joins us live with more. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the ambassador also giving a speech at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, his first public speech since taking on the role. And now this time may feel like a low point for Canada-U.S. relations, but the ambassador was optimistic. In his first remarks since taking the role, the United States ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, said President Donald Trump's focus on prosperity, security, and safety will be a net benefit to Canada.
The more prosperous we are, the more safe we are, and the more secure we are, you will also feel the same.
His address to over 1,000 people at the Empire Club lunch inside the Metro Toronto Convention Centre was the second stop of the day for the ambassador. First meeting with Premier Doug Ford at Queen's Park, who called their discussion great, but said that the path to prosperity, security, and safety is ending tariffs.
And no matter if it's steel or aluminum or tariffs on autos, it's a fair trade.
So we're bringing it up from 25%. We're doubling it to 50%.
Last week, U.S. President Donald Trump announced he would double tariffs on steel and aluminum. Today, Hoekstra was asked about tariffs. He talked about Trump's desire to protect essential industries.
The opportunity for Canada may be that some of those industries and some of those products, actually, if you get them from Canada, They can be done in such a way that there will be, the U.S. can view that as a positive to us.
Yesterday, we spoke to Francois Desmarais from the Canadian steel producers, who says that half of Canadian production already goes to the United States, and 50% tariffs would devastate the industry.
You'll see thousands of layoffs happening in the country. It will be an existential crisis for the Canadian steel industry.
According to the Aluminum Association of Canada, the U.S. imports over 80% of their aluminum because they simply don't have domestic supply.
Many in the business community believe they will come out of this, that this relationship will come out stronger rather than damaged. And I feel the same way.
Toughest job in Canada right now is being Donald Trump's representative in Ottawa. So I give him a little bit of grace on that.
Auto Parts Manufacturers Association President Flavio Volpe was sitting at Ambassador Hoekstra's table today and says, despite a very difficult spring for the auto sector with layoffs at GM and Stellantis, the deal to end tariffs may be close.
I think that right now what we know is happening is very high-level conversations, serious ones, that lift these sectoral tariffs. There's no guarantee that they're going to that it's going to happen, but the people that need to be talking are the ones that are talking, and very seriously on a short time frame.
Now, Premier Ford also expressed optimism that a deal may be close. Flavio Volpe pointed to the G7, which is coming up in 2 weeks, as a possible time for a deal to be announced. But again, he said nothing guaranteed. Reporting live, I'm Sean Nethong. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Peel police have arrested 2 men in British Columbia in connection with a murder in Mississauga last month. 51-year-old Harjeet Dada was shot and killed shortly before noon on May 14th in a parking lot near Tranmere Drive in Telford Way. On May 28th, police arrested Aman and Digvijay, both 21, in Delta, British Columbia. Both men have since been transferred back to Ontario, where they've been charged with first-degree murder.
The city has unveiled a summer safety plan that aims to address youth violence.
The $48 million plan will boost support for existing programs for young people in Toronto. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the details.
It was 1 year ago yesterday that a group of men was playing dominoes in a school parking lot on a Sunday night when 2 suspects opened fire with more than 50 bullets. 61-year-old Delroy George Parks was one of 2 people killed. A 14-year-old boy later charged in his murder.
The pain is unimaginable. You can't describe it. I can't tell you what it is like to wake up and think my dad's in the next room and he's not there, or to get good news and my first instinct is to pick up my phone and there's no one to call because my dad's not there.
Today, Jayden Parks joining Toronto's mayor in unveiling the city's summer safety plan to step up violence prevention efforts.
Our goal is simple: to connect Toronto's young people and their families to opportunities to make sure summer is a safe, vibrant, positive experience for everyone.
The strategy will engage 3,000 youth in summer programming and increase youth drop-in programs by 50% during the summer, focusing as well on youth employment.
When young people have a job and can do something productive for themselves, it is a great means of diverting them from these negative things that they're doing.
So far in 2025, homicides, shootings, robberies, break-and-enters, and auto thefts are down compared to the same time last year. But Toronto police say they remain vigilant heading into the summer season.
While the numbers may be in the right direction, it is important for us as partners to collaborate and do everything we possibly can to prevent and intervene and ensure our communities not only are safe statistically, but feel safe.
Having someone you can connect to makes the difference.
For Jayden Parks, targeted tools that work to prevent violence are a step toward a safer city.
I don't want a mother to know what it is like to lose her child. I don't want a sister to know what it is like to lose her brother, or a child to know what it is like to lose their parent.
Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Residents of a Scarborough neighborhood say the speed camera in their area keeps getting vandalized. This is the camera on Pharmacy just north of Huntingwood. It's located in a community safety zone half a block from an elementary school. However, residents say the machine, which was installed in December, has been repeatedly vandalized and knocked over. One resident claims over the past 5 months, the camera has been knocked down roughly 50 times. Toronto police say they have not received any reports about damage at the location. Meanwhile, the city says it does not own the cameras and it's the vendor's responsibility to replace or fix them within 30 days if they're damaged.
It was fine last night, and I got up this morning, and there it is. Maybe 3 times a week.
The fellow that's doing it knows when to push it down. If you push it on a Friday, it won't be put up until a Monday.
There are kids actually who come from behind on the scooter, like they're just manually doing it, and they, like the city brings out a whole van to fix it, and the kids on scooter, like, you know, knock it over. It's so funny to watch. I would say they're somewhere between 10 and 16 because they're not that big, but it's been knocked over in all the different directions.
A spokesperson for the city says the cameras have been effective in reducing the number of people speeding. They say tampering or damaging the devices undermines the safety of all road users.
Still to come, smoke from wildfires in Western Canada is impacting Toronto and the GTA. We'll have the latest on the wildfire situation a little later in the newscast. But first, the Ford government is continuing to face pushback over Bill 5. It's controversial mining legislation.
Now the opposition is seeking to bog down the legislative process in an effort to scuttle the bill. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris explains.
A mountain of amendments, 4,000 changes to Bill 5 suggested by the Liberals.
This is not delay for delay's sake.
Calling it a delay to defend democracy. A committee considering the bill that would create special economic zones where some laws wouldn't apply is working through the amendments one by one.
If the government votes against that amendment, they're going to be voting for the possibility of exempting somebody from obeying the Safe Drinking Water Act.
Amendment 14.0.0.227.
There's no debate here, just vote after vote with minutes ticking by.
I feel like I'm just sitting like that. And that's it. And that's the way the committee works. And that's the way this government is passing this bill.
The committee's scheduled to sit until midnight, with the final vote in the House on Bill 5 tomorrow. There likely won't be time to work through all the proposed changes before that vote, including 25 that Progressive Conservatives have proposed.
The government will not get the bill it wants, and that will be the signal to the government. Take the summer, go and consult properly, especially with First Nations, and come back with a better bill.
With only 2 days before MPPs head home for summer break, the government's out of runway to address anxieties on Bill 5 from civil liberties groups, environmentalists, and First Nations.
I believe in duty to consult. I believe in treaty rights, but we can't take 2-3 years for duty to consult. We need to move forward.
For the legislature's only First Nations representative, the Premier's words don't have the ring of truth.
They're getting very bad advice from someone.
Even if efforts to stop Bill 5 from becoming law are not successful, the NDP is determined to fight on, and they've done this before, pointing to reversals on Bill 124 and the Greenbelt land removal. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
The Premier says the long-delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT could open as soon as September.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing some positive things about the Eglinton track, and hopefully we'll be handing it over in the next couple of weeks to the TTC, and they'll be doing their trial runs, and thank God. That's all I got to say about that project.
Construction on the LRT began in 2011 and was originally set to be finished in 2020. The project's been plagued by delays and cost overruns, which now top $1 billion. Metrolinx previously stated the public would be given 3 months' notice before the line opens. The opposition expressed skepticism about the timeline.
I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe he'd like to go for a ride with me. I've been waiting a long time for that. I think we've been waiting, 13 years? It's been a disaster. So I'll believe it when I see it. I hope he's right, but I won't be banking on it.
I'm always delighted to hear when public transit projects are open. There has been significant delays, of course, probably significant cost overruns, and now I hope he turns his attention to the many other projects that are in the works that are incomplete, including the Scarborough subway.
The LRT covers a 19-kilometer route from Mount Dennis in the west to Kennedy Road in the east. GoFundMe pages are often set up to raise money to support grieving families.
Now, a local family is outlining their ordeal when someone set up a page on their behalf. CTV's Raheem Ladani has the story.
I was already going through my mom passing, and then a year later, my little brother passed, and it rocked me.
Alan Oliver was deep in grief after losing his 23-year-old brother Aiden last November.
So he was touched to learn that one of Aiden's friend's mother had launched a GoFundMe campaign to help with funeral costs.
I was like, wow, that's so nice that someone would do something like that.
Donations quickly poured in. In fact, the organizer raised the goal to $15,000 and reached it. On the day of the funeral, Oliver says the organizer handed his sister $7,000 in cash, claiming GoFundMe was holding the rest until they submitted a death certificate. GoFundMe confirms that all of the funds were withdrawn in November 2024, including $1,800 on the same day of Aiden's funeral.
She was the only organizer on the event, and there was a bottleneck because of that, because everything had to go through her. So if the organizer misuses the funds, then the family's kind of out of luck.
GoFundMe only launched a fraud investigation last week. The company does have a beneficiary guarantee that protects donations and reimburses donors. Then this past weekend, Oliver received a startling text, a confession.
I want to come clean about everything. When I did this GoFundMe, it was with good intentions to raise money for your family. I have a very bad gambling problem, which I need to get help for.
The organizer admitted to trying to double the money and offered to repay it in installments.
It was disgusting to read that not only did she take the funds, but she gambled with it.
GoFundMe told Oliver they would not reimburse him unless he first attempted the repayment plan. But Oliver didn't trust the promise.
This is Raheem Ladani from CTV News calling. I just finished speaking with Alan, and I was hoping you could give me a call back so we could have a conversation about the GoFundMe page that you set up and the money that still needs to be delivered to him.
It appears someone did listen to our voicemail. Shortly after, Oliver received a message saying the money was being sent and asking CTV not to visit the family's home.
I think as soon as you left that message with her, that honestly probably spooked her that the news were involved. Then she realized the seriousness of the situation.
Oliver has since confirmed he received the full outstanding balance by e-transfer. Now he's calling on GoFundMe to improve its safeguards.
Didn't verify that my family was the beneficiary, didn't verify that the funds were received by the family. There needs to be, I think, just better systems in place.
With the financial burden lifted, Oliver hopes he can finally find some closure. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
We'll get to more news in a moment, but first let's take a live look at the city tonight. It's been a beautiful day of sunshine and warmth, but you might have noticed there's some haze out there, and that is expected to continue through tomorrow. We'll get the specifics now from Jessica Smith, who's monitoring the situation. Jess.
It was a bit of a strange day, right? We saw the sunshine for a little bit, but that haze was sticking over us. That is wildfire smoke from northern Ontario and the prairies that has made its way into southern Ontario. Not prompting any alerts right now, but it doesn't mean it isn't still noticeable. We didn't have much in the way of any active weather, and that smoke is pretty high level, but it's still impacting our view of the blue sky. Heavier smoke to the north throughout the next couple of days, but we will still see it here, so we'll keep an eye on any alerts that do pop up in southern Ontario. It is warm, though. We're still in the mid-20s, really right across southern Ontario, even warmer still into that southwestern corner, and that heat is not going anywhere. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll talk about the heat tomorrow and the potential of rain. All those details in a moment. Right now, back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. In Saskatchewan, the number of people who have fled the wildfires has grown.
We have some challenging days ahead of us as we aren't through this, and the weather doesn't appear to be changing in the near future. To date, we're probably approaching in the neighborhood of 15,000 people that have been evacuated across the province and being supported in communities throughout Saskatchewan. And more families are leaving their home as we speak.
There's a lack of rain in the forecast. The Premier says the most damage has been in places like the northern village of Denair Beach, where some families' homes have been lost. A fire has also breached the airport in the town of L'Orange.
In neighboring Manitoba, fires have forced more than 17,000 people from their homes. That includes the 5,000 residents of Flin Flon and members from at least 4 First Nations. Leaders there are calling on provincial and federal governments to provide more resources to their communities. They say some don't have fire trucks, stable water supplies, and transportation to get the residents out.
In Alberta, wildfires are causing disruptions to the oil and gas industries. 3 companies have been forced to move their workers to safety from the fire burning in the Lac-La-Bouche area in northern Alberta. 5,000 people have been forced from their homes in the province. 26 wildfires are currently out of control.
The federal government is proposing sweeping new legislation intended to strengthen the border.
The Strong Borders Act would give increased powers to security intelligence officials. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
First of all, let me just introduce...
A full foyer for the Public Safety Minister's Strong Borders Act. The wide-ranging bill targets everything from organized crime and car theft to fentanyl flow to money laundering.
There are a number of elements in the bill that have been irritants for the U.S., so we are addressing some of those issues, but it's not exclusively about the United States.
He says it's not just about our relationship with the United States, but strengthening Canada, including in immigration. If passed, part of the broader powers include, for matters of public health or national security, canceling immigration documents immediately or canceling applications.
I am very concerned that people's privacy would be breached. I'm very concerned that those who submitted claims in the immigration system will all of a sudden find their application being withdrawn.
There are also new powers to search mail and in urgent, time-sensitive circumstances for law enforcement to act without a warrant, all of which has privacy experts concerned.
They need to start listening to what all Canadians have to say about this. Yes, be concerned. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and not knowing what lies behind it or beneath it, that is cause for grave concern.
And I fundamentally believe that we have strike the balance, that while expanding powers in certain instances, does have the safeguards and the protections in place.
The legislation is so sweeping it touches 8 different departments. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
U.S. President Donald Trump is going ahead with his threatened 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum as of tomorrow.
That was confirmed today as 11th hour talks took place between top Canadian and American officials. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
How did the meeting go? Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Ambassador Kirsten Hillman met with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in D.C. today.
Every time we have these conversations, I think we deepen our understanding of each other's positions, and I'm hopeful that we can get to the best outcome for Canadians.
Canada's position is that these tariffs are not justified.
But they emerged without any assurances that this country will be spared from the president's latest trade action. As the White House confirms, Trump will be going ahead with his pledge to hike tariffs on steel and aluminum imports tomorrow.
The president will be signing that executive order today, and steel and aluminum tariffs will be going to 50%, yes.
Canadian workers are worried. The industry is already treading water, and now unions fear thousands of jobs could be in peril.
This will be the camel that breaks the straws back, and we will see immediate and probably many layoffs within the sector.
Beyond vowing to support the sector, there's no word yet on what next steps the federal government is prepared to take. Minister LeBlanc is expected to touch base with premiers later today about how the meeting with Lutnick went. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
In the Gaza Strip, health officials report Israeli forces opened fire on people heading toward an aid distribution site, killing at least 27 of them. The Red Cross says more than 155 others were wounded. The Israeli army says it fired near a few suspects who left the designated route, approached its forces, and ignored warning shots. It was the third such incident in 3 days at the same location. Today, a spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Commissioner says deadly attacks on distraught civilians trying to access food aid in Gaza are unconscionable.
There must be a prompt and impartial investigation into each of these attacks and those responsible held to account. Attacks directed against civilians constitute a grave breach of international law and a war crime.
The Israeli government has set up an agency to distribute aid in 4 locations in Gaza. It closed hundreds of sites that had been operated by international agencies across the territory. The Canadian government says Israel needs to follow humanitarian law.
On X, the MP overseeing Canada's foreign aid says Gaza is officially the hungriest place on earth. This is profoundly disturbing. Randeep Sarai goes on to say, "We urge the government of Israel to immediately restore aid flow into Gaza and allow the UN and humanitarian organizations to work independently to provide urgent life-saving aid to civilians."
Ukraine's president has condemned a rocket attack on the city of Sumy that killed 4 people and injured 25 others. Volodymyr Zelensky says that's all one needs to know about Russia's desire to end the war. There was also an attack today on the Ukrainian city of Chernihiv. The state emergency service says at least 1 person was injured when fire broke out after debris from a drone fell. Residential and industrial buildings as well as vehicles were damaged. 5 people were also hurt in a drone attack on the city of Odessa. An investigation into a previously unidentified First World War grave in France has revealed it belongs to a Canadian.
Captain William Webster Wilson was born in Scotland but lived in Toronto. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the story.
A Canadian soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice in the First World War, Captain William Webster Wilson's name is commemorated on the Canadian National Vimy Memorial and on the cenotaph where he lived in Lindsay, Ontario. But for more than a century, where he was laid to rest remained unknown until now.
I think we've all been really kind of blown away by what effort the Canadian Department of National Defence have gone to first of all to identify who this unnamed soldier was, and then to track down my mother.
Sean Edmonds is a distant relative of Wilson's in the UK. He was her great-great-grandmother's nephew.
You know, I have to say, personally, I've been really moved by it. Then to sort of have this direct descendant who gave his life from, you know, halfway around the world as well. I mean, he obviously was a Scotsman, but to go and set up a whole new life in Canada and then to put your life on the line like that is just pretty phenomenal, really.
The mystery began to unravel after the Canadian Armed Forces got a report about a missing captain from the 16th Battalion buried in Adenac Cemetery in France. For 6 months, a team worked, creating a huge candidate list of missing men and whittling it down through documents, including an inquiry from Wilson's brother in Australia, information about the remains, war diaries, and anything else in the archives, before matching Wilson with a specific unmarked grave.
I'm just so proud that this is one of the many cases that we can show that the historical sleuthing does really amount to something very important. I think that doing this work, we can bring their stories to a lot of families that don't necessarily know them or remember them anymore, but in that way we keep their memories alive.
Born in 1890, Wilson emigrated to Canada from Scotland and worked at the Bank of Montreal in Toronto and Lindsay. After enlisting, he became a paymaster overseas before eventually fighting on the front line and dying in a battle as part of the Somme offensive. He was just 25 years old. A headstone rededication ceremony is now being planned.
As a family, we'd like to say thank you to the Canadian Forces. You think about the fact that he was a real person, and it's important that that's acknowledged. And yeah, I think they've done an amazing job in kind of bringing that to us all.
Ensuring no soldier, no sacrifice is ever forgotten. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Still to come, hoping to continue a hot streak. The Blue Jays will be looking for their 6th straight win when they take the field against the Phillies tonight.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, it's expensive to live in the GTA, and many people struggle to pay their rent each month. Some landlords say they're frustrated by professional tenants who they say are abusing the system to live in their units for free. All of that story, that's just ahead.
And it's been a fairly seasonal start to the month of June. The hotspot today, Kirkland Lake. It is going to continue to be nice and warm as we head into the day tomorrow. And really, we're not seeing this trend going anywhere for the foreseeable future. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Ontario's Landlord and Tenant Board has faced a major backlog, which caused delays hearing cases from landlords and tenants.
Some landlords are also concerned some tenants are abusing the system, allowing them to live rent-free for months or even years. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. The vast majority of tenants are respectful and pay the rent on time, but a landlord group says there are a growing number who have found loopholes to avoid paying rent. Now there's a website that shows if a tenant has a history of problems.
She won't budge. And the house is in complete disarray. Like, it's
It's really bad.
Danielle Bro of Sunderland has a home in the country she rents out. For more than a year and a half, the woman who lives there has refused to pay rent. The home is now a complete mess, and Bro is owed $25,000. She has taken the tenant to the landlord and tenant board twice, but the tenant has been allowed to stay free of charge.
She has paid $0. So we can't do anything about it. Like, our hands are tied. We have tried every route.
He's received multiple orders to pay his rent, but he just doesn't follow anything at all.
Sean Graywall of Brampton also has a rental property. His tenant has not paid the rent for almost 2 years and owes about $45,000. Graywall has also been before the landlord and tenant board, but there are constant delays and the tenant continues to live in his house.
These tenants know exactly what they're doing, and they will use the system and all the delays to just, live free as long as they can.
Solo, a group dedicated to helping small landlords, says professional tenants are creating havoc for families across Ontario.
People who deliberately go in, rent a unit, have no intention of paying, and it just keeps happening over and over.
The group is now advising landlords to check the website openroom.ca. It's a database where court orders regarding non-payment of rent and other issues can be uploaded so landlords and tenants can search to see if there's a history of problems.
We want to be able to match the law-abiding tenants with the law-abiding housing providers.
There is currently a housing shortage in Ontario. Some landlords say unless the rules change, it's just not worth taking a chance and having a bad tenant.
There's a housing crisis, and maybe this is why people don't want to be landlords anymore. Like, we certainly don't. This is a headache.
And since its launch 2 years ago, openroom.ca has had over 130,000 visitors. Many landlords are now checking the website before accepting a tenant to see if they have any red flags in their past. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, I love the warm weather. What's especially good is the fact that it's sticking around in the evening as well, especially if we've got plans tonight.
Oh, those warm evenings. Yeah, so lovely. Looking at the skyline here, definitely looks hazy. You can see, we should probably have a bit of a bluer sky.
We should. This is part of the wildfires that are affecting parts of Northern Ontario and the prairies. We're not under any alerts right now, but we're still seeing the effects of it in the upper layers of the atmosphere. So although we aren't under alerts, if you do have any breathing challenges, it might be a little tricky for you. But as Nathan mentioned, the warmth is holding on and it's not going anywhere as we head through the foreseeable future. A shot from this afternoon, a hazy view. So what would have been a really blue sky, bright day, obviously marred a little bit by all of that wildfire smoke. As we head in towards the evening, we do see a little bit of a clearing, and the bulk of that heavier smoke is going to be through central and northern Ontario. Temperature-wise, it is significantly warmer than it was as we kind of wrapped up the month of May, and so we've stepped into June in these first few days with temperatures at or above seasonal. Right now in Windsor, they're sitting at 30 degrees. It feels like 33 here in the city, 27, feeling like 28. Anywhere kind of north of Timmins, it's a little cooler. They were benefiting from the warmth previously, but the jet stream has changed a little, and we're now getting the warmth here in central and southern Ontario. Into this evening, 17. We should be at 12. Everybody holding on to the warmth, especially through Windsor, areas through Goderich, through London. They're looking at temperatures in the 20s this evening. We step into our day tomorrow, more warmth, more sunshine, a little hazy though, but we'll see a daytime of 28, feeling around 33 degrees, and everybody has that high humidex value and those high UV index values, so sun protection and hydration key if you work outside or you're spending any time outdoors. And for the kiddos heading off to school, packing extra water, probably a good call. We're relatively clear minus that wildfire smoke and when it comes to active weather, but we're watching this system, this line of showers making its way across the Great Lakes, primarily impacting us here in the GTA and Southern Ontario into the second half of our day tomorrow. So not an all-day rain affair for many. We get through the rest of our evening relatively clear, but we're watching that system first making its way through Sault Ste. Marie, and then that will kind of sink its way a little further down. But your Wednesday morning, relatively clear, nice and warm once again. The showers for us here in the GTA come through late afternoon, early evening, just some cloud cover as we head through the overnight hours. And then we're watching for another round of light showers showers at tail end of this system into the start of our Thursday, and then it heads out. So honestly, the rain may be a welcome break for some when it comes to the heat and humidity. 28 again for your daytime high tomorrow, feeling like 33 overnight, not dropping at all. We're sitting at 18. We should be at 12 for this time of year. Heading into your Thursday, those showers into the morning, they push out into the late afternoon, early evening, and a fairly seasonal end to the work and school week. I know some kids are into exams, so something to look forward to heading into the weekend. Very seasonal temperatures, and we're holding on at a beautiful and seasonal point as we head throughout the week. Nathan, I'll send things back to you.
All right, thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
The Blue Jays will be looking for a 6th straight win tonight as they begin a series with the Philadelphia Phillies.
And he's hit it hard to deep right, and it is gone!
The Jays wrapped up a 4-game sweep of the Athletics on Sunday with an 8-4 win. First pitch for tonight's game against the Phillies is set for just after 7.
Also tonight, emergency room wait times are increasing across Canada. What a new study reveals about the time spent in the waiting room and which Toronto hospital has patients waiting the longest.
A new report looked at emergency room wait times across the country.
It found people nationwide are waiting longer for treatment. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the specifics.
The study by Canadian think tank MEI looked at data from the past 5 years and found that wait times from triage to admission or discharge from the hospital increased significantly since 2020. In Ontario, the median amount of time in the emergency room is 4 hours, up 54 minutes from 5 years ago. So half of the people waited longer than 4 hours, the other half was less than 4 hours.
An hour of additional wait time is a lot of time for a patient.
And Crystal Witt-of-Rongel says there's evidence that time affects outcomes and even deaths.
Absolutely. And a lot of think tanks in this space do really good work that actually show through reports and freedom of information requests how many patients died while either on wait lists or waiting. And this is definitely something that each province has or is experiencing.
In terms of median ER stays, Newfoundland and Labrador fared best with a time of 2 hours and 45 minutes. Quebec is in the worst position with times averaging 5 hours and 23 minutes. Within Ontario, Sunnybrook Health Sciences shows the longest ER time at 8 hours, 13 minutes. Ottawa Hospital's General Campus and Hôpital Montfort, also in Ottawa, come in second and third at around 7.5 hours each. The MEI study points to France, where the ER wait times are a fraction of Canada's.
What they have are these immediate care centers, which are like our urgent care centers, but they are independently run, and they're often run by the doctors and nurses that staff them. And so there's a lot more flexibility for those staff and those facilities to actually better respond to the needs of the patients.
They're privately run but publicly funded, and Witt-of-Rongel says that kind of innovation and flexibility is vital for Canada to reduce its wait times. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
New research indicates a daily cup of coffee could help women as they age. Researchers followed a group of 47,000 women over a 30-year period. They found that moderate coffee consumption during midlife was associated with a higher likelihood of healthy aging 30 years later. The effect was specifically linked to caffeinated coffee and was not seen with decaf or tea.
After the break, Hudson's Bay stores may be empty and locked, but the iconic brand will live on in some way as a court approves the deal with Canadian Tire. The Bay's next chapter just ahead.
The warmth we built up throughout the day isn't going anywhere, making for a great night for eating dinner outside or heading out for an evening stroll. The heat will continue to climb as we mark the middle of the week. Coming up, I'll have a recap of your full 7-day forecast.
Early information that's been provided to us is that there was a struggle between the male upstairs with police, and there would have been a brief interaction.
Updating our top stories, the SIU and Halton police are investigating the deaths of 2 men at a home in Burlington early this morning. A woman also suffered minor injuries. Neighbors have identified the men as Mauro Gennacaro and his 28-year-old son, Luciano.
It will help 3,000 young people and over 500 families to participate in summer recreation and youth violence prevention programs.
The city's unveiled its summer safety plan aimed at addressing a rise in gun violence among young people. The plan will see a boost to support for existing youth programs.
Your Prime Minister, my President, they can do this quickly if they have the will and the direction to do it.
The U.S. ambassador to Canada visited Toronto today. He is painting an optimistic picture of Canada-U.S. relations, even as U.S. President Donald Trump gets set to double tariffs on steel and aluminum imports.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know. An Ontario judge has granted permission for Canadian Tire to purchase the Hudson's Bay Company's trademarks.
The $30 million deal will give the company the rights to the Bay's name, coat of arms, and those iconic stripes. CTV's Allison Hurst has the details.
The name is still emblazoned on the outer walls, but just the shell of what was Canada's oldest company remains. The historic Hudson's Bay is closed.
It is kind of weird because I used to walk by the bay. So now that it's empty, it's kind of feeling vacant.
The silver lining, some of its most iconic brands will live on. A judge approved the sale of the Bay's intellectual property to Canadian Tire for $30 million.
There's an attachment to it. It's very Canadian, and especially right now, we want to support being Canadian, so I think that's great.
The deal will give Canadian Tire the rights to the Bay name, its coat of arms, and iconic stripes. Also included trademarks like Bay Days and the Zeller's catchphrase, lowest price is the law.
There's been tremendous, certainly more than $30 million worth of equity pumped back into those iconic stripes. So yes, in addition to all the other brands, let's not forget they got Zeller's and a host of other brands in that grab bag. This was nothing short of a coup.
The approvals come months after Canada's oldest company filed for creditor protection and days after all 96 stores closed.
It's bittersweet.
A joint real estate venture with leases for 12 properties is now in receivership. The judge approved the move, which is to protect stakeholders and maximize the value it can recover.
Some of the space is 300,000 square feet, right? So I think what landlords will have to do is probably divide it, try to sublease it.
The judge also recognized Hudson's Bay as the former employer of all department store workers who have been terminated, allowing them to apply to recoup money they may be owed under the Wage Earner Protection Program Act.
And which can offer up to $8,800 per person.
The Canadian Tire deal is the first lawyers for the Bay are expected to ask a court to approve. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Just ahead, harnessing the power of goats. Toronto turns to four-legged labor and their hearty appetites to get a handle on unwanted vegetation. We'll be right back.
A herd of goats is set to be unleashed in the Don Valley next week.
The animals are all part of an effort to limit the spread of invasive plant species in the area. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has the details.
At this farm near King City live over 100 goats, all with a special purpose.
I was in finance and mortgage brokering and all that. And they say, when you love something, it always comes back.
Ian Matthews grew up with goats, and a few years ago when his father needed help with the animals, he decided to make something of it. Creating Goats in the City, a unique opportunity for municipalities, companies, even individuals to harness the power of his goats.
We use goats to control vegetation, especially invasive plants like buckthorn, phragmites, thistles. So there's a crisis with these plants right now. And in Europe and Asia, where these plants originated, they use goats to control them. But we brought the plants here, we didn't bring the goats.
So Goats in the City brings the goats to areas with invasive species issues and lets them loose to do what they do best.
Goats can eat what most animals won't. They will even eat things that will hurt other animals and still be fine with it.
Next week, for the second year in a row, some of those goats will commute into Toronto for work. That job, to help deal with woody and invasive plants in the meadow area of the Evergreen Brickworks.
The project is following on our very successful 2024 pilot when Toronto became the first municipality in Ontario to introduce a comprehensive goat grazing project for ecosystem management.
For the city, it's a chance to get some four-legged labor to help deal with pesky plants that are taking over. For the goats, it's a chance to go out for lunch.
They're doing what they do naturally, okay? We're not forcing our goats. We don't use them for milk. We don't use them for meat. We just let them do what they do.
The public can visit the Brickworks on June 10th and 11th between 10 and 6 to see the goats in action, and there will be 3 educational talks per day, an opportunity for city residents to witness what goats can do right in their own backyard.
It's about controlling nature without impacting it.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
You know, they look happy, they look like they're enjoying the weather, just chilling.
They're loving it. This weather is wonderful, whether you're a goat or a human. Yeah. And then there's another day of this.
We get the heat again tomorrow, even warmer. So we're climbing above seasonal. We do cool down a little bit with some rain that's going to make its way in midweek. But overall, we are at or above seasonal right through to the end of the week. So, yes, we are contending with some wildfire smoke in the upper layers of the atmosphere. But for us in southern Ontario, it is less of an issue on the ground. We're sitting at 27 still here in the city, feeling like 28. Windsor warm at 30, feeling like 33, and we are into the meteorological summer season in a most beautiful way. Really warm as we head into this evening, so if you're planning on barbecuing tonight, a fantastic forecast to do so. And really over the next few days, even with the rain cooling things down slightly, it is a beautiful first few days of June.
We are happy. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zurada Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jess Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.